point because the development cycle has been very fast, on Ghosty, and it was working, and then I installed it on another Debian machine, and then it wasn't working, and so I think it's gotten to that point where that bug has been addressed and fixed, so I could probably go back, but WesTerm is incredibly stable. Especially if you're because you have two choices with WesTerm. You can go with the stable branch, which is more than a year old now and works very, very well. But there's also, if you wanted to, you go WesTerm nightly build, which is super, super bleeding edge. And that is something that I have never even tried, is the nightly build for WesTerm.
What can
I'll have to check it out. Because today also for the Hyperland users out there, everybody's been going through suffering Vaxry's syntax update without documentation. He didn't document the new syntax update, and we all suffered, not suffered, but we all encountered a bunch of error messages in the thing up top of the screen.
What syntax?
He changed the syntax where it no longer accepts plus and minus, like for date, hour plus minutes plus seconds and stuff like that. It no longer accepts those, and it will throw out an error, spit out an error. So
he changed away from the standard way of displaying a time?
Yeah.
But Hyperland doesn't control the bar.
I know it doesn't. That's what I was wondering. I don't get it. Yeah.
No, it's not. I'm not talking about the bar. I said it shows the error above the bar. Do you know where usually Hyperland displays the errors?
Just don't have errors.
The time is in the bar, though. Where are you displaying the time?
Oh, you're saying it actually pushes the bar down and puts it.
It puts the error and puts the error up on top of the bar, and it says something about plus and minus. Syntax error, plus and minus not recognized.
DWM. That's all I can say.
No, because I'm
DSPWM, DWM. Just go through the list here, baby. Open box.
Because I'm currently working on my own.
Matt's ready to go, guys.
Yes. All right. Go ahead and mute yourself. We're going to go ahead and.
All right.
Go ahead and go. All right, we've actually been live for a little while, so you guys got to hear some of that. So hello, everybody who is watching live. We're going to do a Linux user group. If you want to join, the link is in the video description. I also tweeted it out. It's on Discord. So if you want to join, you can do so, or you can just watch along. So we're going to talk about artificial intelligence this time. So this was a three-way tie in our polling, and I just chose this one. I thought that it would be the most fun. We can talk about vibe coding for a little while, as the kids say. They come up with the weirdest names. I don't even know what this means. But anyway, so first off, I guess we'll just go around and talk. Raise of hands, and if you want to have something to say, who actually uses artificial intelligence to do things? Steve, go ahead. Tell us what you use it for.
Vibe coding.
That's what you use it for?
To vibe. Yeah, that's what I use it for. The Zero Linux toolkit was vibe coded from beginning to end, except the main menu. That was somebody else. But the rest of it, the bash scripts, vibe coded. The new Linux desktop installer, vibe coded. The new Zero Linux update script, vibe coded. That's what I use it for. I love vibe coding. I don't have any clue what it's spitting out. As long as it works, it works. And I use AI I use ChatGPT on my phone when I'm lonely. I just talk about the weather, talk about stuff when I'm lonely, and in Arabic, because I discovered that, or let me put it this way, in Lebanese dialect, because I discovered recently that ChatGPT included a Lebanese dialect voice in ChatGPT. So I use AI when I'm lonely, which is very rare, but I do sit on the balcony, vape, and chat with ChatGPT. But 99% of the time I use it to vibe code, because that's how everything, all the toolkits in Zero Linux and update scripts and deinstallers were created. Some people have an issue with that. I don't mind it. Please don't let me know. As long as they work and you are having fun and they're making your lives easier, that's the end goal. Success.
Gnome, go ahead.
I used it a few months ago. I was playing around with C++, doing a little project of my own, making a hardware database, trying to pass an array of objects, and I was having trouble. So I used one of the LLMs to ask how to pass an array of objects in C++, and then kind of mangled that code up and put it into mine, and it worked. I use it to, like, if I ever get stuck on a hurdle, like one specific thing, I'll ask it for a reference, say, how do I use this, X, Y, or Z, and then I'll modify that to my application.
Yeah, so I have tried my hardest to avoid having it do everything for me. You know what I mean? It's like I don't want to get into the point where it's like, oh, well, here I need a script, go do this script for me. And I don't feel like I've accomplished anything if it writes like the other day I was trying to create a reinstall script for OpenSUSE, and I streamed this, and like I wanted to do it on my own because I don't want to, like, I could easily have just had Open or ChatGPT do it for me, but I didn't learn anything that way, and I didn't experience the errors and figure out how I was doing on. But what I've been using AI for has been like when I get stuck, it's so much easier to get tech support from AI because you don't have to wait for people to respond to you. Like you go to a forum, you gotta like wait like for like an hour for someone to come answer your question if they ever answer it, and then half the people are like, "Did you read the fucking manual?" or anything like that. So it's easier just to ask. But I've also found the answers a lot of times. Sometimes they're really helpful. Sometimes they're like, "Wow, that wasn't right at all." Drew, go ahead.
So to answer the question, not just about coding, because I've used it for a lot of things and to include like, hey, I'm shopping for a new car and I want these things. What are my options? And then it will like look at that versus an SUV or a truck and blah, 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 blah. It's really cool in terms of like stream of consciousness type of brainstorming. And that way, I think that it kind of saves me time in doing the research that I would normally do. But overall, yeah, I have used it for sure when it comes to like problem solving in terms of scripting. And one of the things that I think is incredibly valuable is syntax, is looking at syntax and going, oh shit, there's a comma missing or something like that, where it's like, I can't figure out what it is. And then all of a sudden the answer presents itself by way of AI, just kind of telling you, hey, dummy, it's this. And so, yeah, I really enjoy that. I'm really hip deep in it, just looking at all the different models and what all the different models have. I mentioned this on the podcast, but I'm self-hosting um, my own interface for AI. And not only that, but I'm using a couple local AIs, part of Llama, Ollama, and then I'm also connecting to OpenRouter.ai, which provides hundreds of different models, most of them paid, but you don't have to like create an API key for every single like company that's out there, including Anthropic and OpenAI and so on. It's a really cool, I know I'm kind of too much information right now, but we can go back. But I think that it's a very interesting topic for me, at least right now.
I agree. Steve, go ahead.
Now, to be joking aside, because I was joking earlier, I wanted to get the lug off on an exciting tone. But the real reason I use AI is since I I have been proficient in functions when it comes to bash scripting. I always manage to forget something. Either my if statement is incomplete, or I forget to the close bracket, or elif, or stuff like that. So I go through AI, and I'm never lonely. I'm not crazy enough to talk to something that doesn't exist. But it is true that I discovered a Lebanese dialect one that speaks in Lebanese, but I tried it for 30 seconds and I forgot about it. But the in all seriousness, what Matt said is 100% true. Using AI as a tech support, especially when it comes to coding and configuring stuff, it's very useful. So that's what I use it for. Like somebody comes on, especially for us distro maintainers, when somebody comes to my server and tells me I'm having an issue with X and Y, when I never had the issue myself, Googling it would take ages. So I just throw the issue onto AI, and it gives me options. And let's say 35% of the time, it fixes it for me. The rest of the time, I have to keep prompting it over and over, spend 2-3 hours for it to finally understand the issue and give me a fix for it. But that's mostly what I use AI for. And to give me, sometimes I want to send a message to my users in a geeky tone, or use the right words without giving, because English is not my first language. So there are thoughts in my head that I don't know how to put in proper English, or in sentences that do make sense. I throw the idea towards AI and I tell it, be geeky, be funny, and it throws me those sentences, and then I create a post on my website, or I send it on my Discord to keep the fun going, the fun feeling going, and the geeky fun going. I don't want to be very serious. I don't like serious tone. So I use AI for that as well. So it can be useful in many aspects. Just don't ask it. The thing I don't recommend anyone do, which recently Crucitus Tech discovered, is never ask it to write a script or anything from scratch. It's going to hallucinate. You're going to waste so much time on trying to make it understand where you're coming from. You better off doing something else instead. So don't ask it, and be careful of the code that it spits out. Please test the code. Please search the internet to see if the code wasn't stolen from somewhere or anything. So be careful.
You know?
I just wanted to agree with you like 100% and reiterate that it makes getting over hurdles easier. Like, you don't have to wait on tech support or forums. Like, there is Super User and Stack Exchange, but a lot of times that's like their knowledge is up here and I'm just a layman. So the AI can break it down where my dumbass can understand it. So it makes it a lot easier.
And if it says something that you don't understand, you can like say, "Hey, can you say that in a different way?" or whatever. One of the things, so Steve, you mentioned talking to it. The other day, I was setting up another computer, and I needed to figure out how to get. So I've never had success with the OpenSUSE net installer before. It can never get it to connect to the internet. It's always been really flaky. But by turning on that thing, basically where it's just like listening to you, I was able to have it walk me through that and actually get it to work. So the voice aspect of AI is actually pretty interesting because it allows you to kind of like have somebody in the room with you as you walk through something. So the other day when I was doing that, I was just like, "Hey, can you tell me what's the difference between WPA and whatever the other one is?" Like, I don't remember this stuff. That's like from the mobile phone days, right? We don't use those terms anymore. So it was like, which one should I use? And it's just like, this is how you do it. This is what you need to do, and it was easier than having to, read it through text, because I was able to keep my hands on the keyboard and keep doing the stuff that I needed to do. So that was good as well. I don't remember where I was going. Drew, go ahead.
No, I was just going to kind of the collaborative partnership aspect is what I think is my favorite thing. Brainstorming, because I can go back and forth and getting feedback and maybe thinking of something that I had not thought of. Kind of interesting in that it's like, oh wow, because it's these models have such a vast knowledge of so many different topics. I think that you kind of lead it certain ways, the way you frame your questions, which I think can be good, but it also can be very, very bad because it's only looking at it from one user perspective. But overall, it does kind of like this collaborative brainstorming type scenario is what I think it's really, really good at. The thing that most of you guys' points is you cannot blindly trust the output. The output is slanted at best, and at worst, it's not actually answering the question that you are making. It's kind of like interpreting what you're asking, and then it's going to give you what it thinks that you're really asking, which is kind of you're over relying on that part of it being good. Okay. I think that people should recognize that it is maybe, depending on certain AI rankings, maybe only about 60%, depending on the model of it, is accurate. And anywhere in the world where it's 60%, that's a D or an F, man, as far as I'm concerned. Overall, I think that there's also the ability for cheating and passing work off as your own. And that is kind of like the shitty aspect about AI, where you're saying, especially if it, I challenge my own children, my son in particular, who's in college. I was like, dude, you cannot rely on this to do things and then expect that you're learning anything. So as long as it's, like I said, more of a collaborative effort, so that it's pulling you along, then I'm thinking thumbs up.
Steve?
I want to agree with Drew here, because when I was working on a brand new script for the hyperlink config that we're working on, where you click an icon and it will check for updates and whatnot. I made it geeky and stuff. But when I was working on it, I was asking it, how do I do this? How do I make sure it runs on startup and whatever? And I uploaded the script to it so it understands that I'm working on a bash script. For whatever reason, the AI switched to Python scripting and it started suggesting Python syntax. I'm like, I gave you a bash script to modify and fix and make sure it runs on startup, because there's an icon and a way bar that shows the user and notifies the user of how many updates exist. Why are you giving me Python syntax? And it keeps apologizing, saying, oh, yeah, you're correct. It's a bash script. Let's continue on writing bash script. And it spits out different syntax, Lua syntax, and it goes around. So I have to spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes trying to convince it that it's a bash script, nothing else. So yeah, some people just rely on it and start copy pasting stuff, and they wonder why it's not working. It's because AI is not aware. AI is nothing you can trust. It's like Drew said, it doesn't even analyze things correctly. So it's situational. It thinks this is what you want. It interprets willy-nilly what you want. It's kind of weird. So for me, it's nothing reliable. Just if you have tech support questions, go ahead. Or you have small syntax errors you want to fix, yes, go ahead, but don't write anything from scratch, because that's a nightmare and a half. I've been through that hell, and I don't want others to go through it. Oh my God.
Go ahead.
Um, when I'm doing coding stuff, if ever asking an LLM for coding, I always use a local model like DeepSeek that's focused on the coder, and it has a lot better database. They don't hallucinate as bad. Like if you just use the regular GPT, how it has the general database, it just knows everything. Use one that's focused on exactly coding. And I'd like to agree with Drew. When you're asking a language, any LLM, it has to interpret what you're asking, and then it answers the question that it thinks you asked. It's a lot like Google. If you don't put in the right search query, you're going to get back bogus results. It's all about how you ask the question.
Yeah. One of the things about one of the newer chat GPT models that they do now is they show you how they get to their answer. So it's like back in high school where your math teacher always showed you to show your work. Chat GPT has kind of started to do this where they kind of like, it shows you like while it's thinking, it tells you exactly kind of what it's doing. Like it's searching for this. The user wants to know this, and this is how I'm going to get to it. And I think that's really helpful because even when something comes by and it's like wrong, you can at least see kind of where it went wrong, and that can kind of help you, hone your follow-up queries and stuff like that. And if it's like way off base and it's like doing things like it's doing something really weird, like, oh well, this is not going to happen, you can just stop wasting your time. So I think that that's really helpful. Whereas before, it would just spit out stuff like you had no clue how it got to its answer or where its sources were from. The newer models not only show you its work, but it will tell you this is where the sources it came from. Here's the links to everything I've done. And you can go check that stuff on your own, which is, I think, especially the way it should be. Drew, go ahead.
No, I was going to talk about what Steve was mentioning in that it's interesting in the way AI will interpret the question and then answer that question. And it seems like, for example, I think if Steve, you were doing bash scripting, I'm not sure if it was bash scripting, and then it like kind of like switched over to a Python solution. That's an interesting kind of like methodology in that the LLM interpreted maybe the better tool to accomplish the task. And I'm spitballing here basically. So and I'll give you my real world example of that. I was doing a bash script for OpenBox, and what that one script did was look at the XML, look at the entire because OpenBox uses an XML configuration for the window manager, and within that is all of the key bindings. But it being an XML and me writing in bash was absolutely like the worst solution for stripping out all of these key bindings and actually trying to put it in a ROFI in a ROFI RASI file, right? It worked. It took me hours to come to that conclusion when I put the solution into I think it was ChatGPT at the time. It basically said, you can use bash scripting, but what you're going to do is you're going to call to a Python script. So within the bash script is actually a small Python script that strips out or parses the XML, which is like, holy shit, that was really, really good idea. Unless I just wrote it in Python. That would have been probably the better idea. But what it didn't do was it changed what I was doing. It just basically said the solution would be better if you just use Python for that part of the XML, parsing. So anyway, that was like the one case where it was just like, oh wow, using, not knowing what I was, knowing that I was using bash scripting, but then understanding what the better way to do it was a really cool a really cool scenario.
Steve?
Yeah. I wanted to add to what Drew was saying that no, it was pure bash. It was 100% bash. There was nowhere in the script where I was doing any Python, but I understand where you're coming from. But it wasn't suggesting that it's better to be done in Python language, because all I was doing is checking. The first part that my script did was check if which AUR helper was installed and use that. Otherwise, use Pacman. And then detect if flatpaks are enabled. You update flatpaks from and so on and so forth. So it was pure bash, but suddenly it switched to Python, and then it switched to other languages, and if it was suggesting, it would have said, I suggest to use this or that. But it never, because you know how LLMs work. They tell you what, they show you a solution, and then they're very descriptive as to the reasoning why they did what they did. But in my case, it was doing, it was, all it was saying is, this is the solution for your issue. I'm like, no, that's not the solution. I want it to be written in bash script, because I don't want to run a Python thing in Hyperland. And I indicated that I was using Hyperland with Waybar, and I was very descriptive, but it kept switching and hallucinating. And when I finally got it to understand that it was a bash script, instead of fixing my bash script, it kept breaking it in a million ways from here to Sunday. So I ended up rewriting the whole thing myself, and it sort of kind of works now. It just doesn't check for updates on startup. It just does it later on according to the cron job that I created. But yeah, it was a hell in a handbasket just getting it to recognize that it was bash.
Drew?
Yeah, two things. One is I think what Gnome said in terms of general LLMs not really designed for coding is a very key thing to understand. Maybe a more targeted approach is better, and some of these LLMs are a lot better at scripting than others. I'm going to say Claude AI, by the way, and I've mentioned that a few times now. Claude AI is freaking amazing when it comes right down to it. And their new thing called Claude Code, which I talked about for like, I don't know, 10 seconds basically on the podcast, is really, really interesting to me, guys. By the way, the other thing was shoot, what I forgot kind of where I was going to say, but yeah, I'll come back to me in a minute. I had something.
Who's Claude, the Claude thing through, Drew? Is that like a separate thing, or is that
the company's called Anthropic, and the Claude Code, again, and I did mention this early on the pod. You have to have there's two ways to get it, and one's through API, and the other one is if you are a Claude Max, and yeah, it costs $100 a month. Okay, and so what I'm doing right now is testing, and I'm ponying up the $100 for the month to see what else I can get through in terms of functionality. But overall, like I said, I'm also doing the open router thing. But the Claude AI is truly amazing when it comes to code. To me, at least. I haven't tried all of them. I think that would be silly if I had said, "Oh yeah, I've tried all of them." Hundreds of them. Yeah, no, I've tried this one, and I think there's something called the Sonnet 3.7 model. That is, you don't like that one, Steve? No. Claude Code is very good, and it's based on the 3.7 model. So anyway, I thought it was pretty good.
Steve, go ahead.
That's the one that switched to Python from bash scripting, Claude Sonnet 3.5. That's the one I have access to. I'm ponying up 20 buckaroonies a month for the various ChatGPT stuff. that's the one that spits out the most hallucinated content I've ever seen in code. When it comes to code, it never understands what I'm asking it. I switch sometimes to something called Perplexity. Perplexity now defaults to DeepSeek R1, and it tends to give me a little better results, not a lot better, but a little better result. I have to argue with it less. But the one that works the best for what I do is one that my brother sent me. I forgot the name of it. My brother sent me one because he uses AI 24/7. He worships AI, but he sent me one. I forgot the name of it. It's something that's very powerful. It's got a weird name. It does things way better. I send it the script. It understands. It immediately says, "Oh, I guess you're trying to work on a bash script. Let's see how we can make your bash script better." Now, the thing I hate about it, without me asking it, it starts adding. Do you want? It starts adding like since I'm working on a hyperland config. Do you want me to enable effects? Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to? I just asked you to fix a syntax. That's all I asked you. If I wanted all this crap, I would ask you. It keeps on asking me questions. If I wanted to do you want me to make your script better by doing this? I'm like, no, just stick to what I asked you. And the nice thing about this AI, you can configure it on the back end. You tell it, like, I'm an Arch Linux user. You give it your profile, and then it will only answer you according to your profile. Like, I'm a bash scripter, so it will only give you bash syntax. So I love this thing about it. But other than that, this is what I use mostly on the day-to-day. I used to use something called Cursor AI, but Cursor AI, if you don't pony up the extra $20 a month, it's just going to hallucinate 24/7. And when I saw Chris Titus Tech using it, and he's ponying up the $20 and still hallucinates, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to use that. So I'm sticking to what my brother sent me, and it's pretty good. It's not the best, but it's pretty good because, like you guys said, if you use something specific to what you are doing, it's better than using something general. If you use something general, it's gonna assume a lot of things and never give you what you need. So if you want your coding, use a coding-based AI. If you're web developing, there's V0. V0 is amazing. That's another thing for another time.
You know,
You mentioned you use your AI to get some slang down for the American slang and whatnot, and it answers differently. I have to wonder, with the language models, I wonder if they're trained, like there's like a base template, and that they train it differently for different regions, and that falls inside of top level domains like .us or .canada or .wherever. There's hundreds of country codes. I wonder if if people are reaching different LLMs and they're trained differently for different parts of the world. There's the base cutter, but then it trains on that area. I have to wonder.
I mean, it probably does. I mean, it would make sense that it does, right, Drew?
I kind of remember what I was going to say, something about the resource. I think AI is improving in the area of resources. So in the sense that if you ask a question, it will then spit out the resources used in order to come to that conclusion. Like if you are, for whatever model you're using, I think that it should kind of like give you, let's say, a list of 10 articles to support the reasoning behind the answer. And that way you can kind of like either dismiss or look a little bit deeper at each one of those resource supporting articles. I think that that's something that's improving dramatically. I take advantage of it. I think everyone should take advantage of the reasoning resources behind answers. The other thing is, as far as Anthropic is concerned, I like the fact that and again, this is my interpretation. I believe that they're more trustworthy. I guess maybe that's an overstatement, but basically they are a little bit more open model in the sense that they regularly publish research papers and they detail approaches to their own AI development, and they're basically contributing that to the community. And I think that that is something that I like to support. Not all of them are going to be open source type models, especially the ones that are worked on at the level that we're talking about. By the way, Steve, 3.5, there was two 3.5 models for Anthropic. One was called Haiku. The other one was called Sonnet. The one that's the newest one is 3.7 Sonnet. And that is the one that I think is a little bit more, and that's the one that actually searches the web more better. And there's certain other ones like Perplexity, for example, actually is a very good like source model for searching the web. And then like say, hey, can you collect me some articles for this specific topic? Perplexity does that very well.
Steve?
Yeah, I just wanted to say also that Sonnet. Oh, I just found 3.7 Sonnet. I was using 3.5. Well, okay, just added. But yeah, LLMs are very general when you use especially something that's not self-hosted and that is not specific to what you need. So if you want to use AI, find one that is specific to your need. Don't use a general one because and for slang, I just want to be geeky. I want to be as geeky as possible and funny. That's why when I created my update script, when a reboot is required, it's like it says something along the lines of do you want to reboot and seal the deal? Stuff like that. So a lot of users loved the geekiness of my script. So I was like, yeah, I'm adding some personality to Linux because it tends to be very boring at times, giving you just very technical words and stuff. I wanted to give it a personality, and ChatGPT helped me in that because it's a language, not a programming language, but an English language kind of thing. So yeah, why not add personality to your scripts? So yeah, I use ChatGPT for that. It's fun going back and forth with it. It gives you some jokes that are hilarious.
You know?
If I'm understanding this correctly here, what Mishka put in the chat here, I have to agree with him. Even if the LLM say is proprietary and closed source, it would be nice if they would release how they trained the model itself, what it's trained on, where its databases are, what its resources. Even if the model itself is closed source, release the resources. Like you can't get to a library card without having a library card. Or you can't go to the library without a library card, right? It's a lot of resources, but you're still signing stuff out as tracked. Like it makes sense, kind of. I would like to agree with that. If I'm understanding it correctly, that is.
I think the open source thing when it comes to AI is really hard for a lot of these companies because everything's moving so fast. There's so much competition at it right now. And there's so much money, right? Like this is where all the VC stuff is going now. So if you're wanting to get into that, it's hard to. I mean, we've talked about this before. Like it's really hard to monetize something that's open source for anybody else to just take and just do what they want with. And so I think even if it were easy to open source an AI thing, which it's not, because once they create it, it's kind of really hard to know what's going on in there. And even a lot of these developers don't know what's going on, and they created it. Even if that part was easy, the making of the money and satisfying VC and all that stuff, I would love to see like a truly open source model that was like fantastic and had a chance. It feels almost at this point impossible. Maybe someday something like that's very grassroots that kind of started off really small and kind of worked its way up would work. Um, I don't know. Drew, go ahead.
If we're talking about money, I'm going to support what Matt just said, like 100%. Not because I have, because actually I have real world experience in selling properties, domain properties to AI companies, and they have money. Okay, I'm just letting you know. In what I do, we have a collection of domain names that are very good. Okay, and because of that, I think I have sold more than $7.5 million in the last 6 months. Most of them to AI companies. And no, I don't get that money, just so we're clear. Okay. Um, but overall, the amount of money, the amount of VC, and how much money, well, sorry, let me put it this way. How much money is being pushed through AI right now is just staggering. Okay. But how much falsehoods there are in how good a specific model is also just astounding, because we know for a fact that there is really good models. And when I say really good, I'm still talking about like 60 to 80% of accuracy, somewhere in there. Nothing is going to be perfect. It's the one that's going to be groundbreaking that is going to be something that, the amount of money that we'll never see in our lifetime, maybe again. I'm just putting that out there.
YN in the chat asked, what does money have to do with open source? In this case, it's literally everything, because a lot of these, when something's new, maybe this is just the way that I look at it, a lot of these companies, when they're creating something new and they have a way of doing something that's potentially different than what, say, OpenAI is doing, they want to keep that to themselves. And maybe in a perfect world, things would be open source and it wouldn't matter, and they'd be able to continue to make money and and have their things be open as well. But in the way this area seems to move, like it would almost certainly be taken immediately by OpenAI, by Elon and Grok, or whatever he calls his. He calls it like XAI or whatever the hell he calls it these days. I don't know even know. Those features was immediately taken, and if that's usually open source companies are smaller to begin with because they don't start off with as much capital to begin with, they just immediately be overshadowed and their features would be gone. So that's why the reason why the proprietary nature. It feels weird to be an open source enthusiast to say that and advocating for these things remain proprietary, and I'm not even sure I'm doing that. It's just that's the way that it is. Drew, go ahead.
No, I'm just backing you up. Basically, there's a few reasons because of how much money is being pushed into it. With open source, there's always going to be constraints associated with these community projects. That these closed source or these private initiatives, they don't have the same constraints. They just don't. These AI labs have so much money that their data access it eliminates any constraint when it comes to data access. Talent, you can pay the top talent to come in and provide resources to these initiatives. The engineering aspect of it, when you're talking about how much processing power is necessary for this, they can pay for all of that. Whereas these open source projects, to Matt's point, smaller usually, the constraints are significant in that regard. So the challenges for open source when it comes to AI development is going to be significant compared to the constraints that are not there for some of the money, like we're talking about Elon and his XAI and Grok and so on. So it's not even a fair fight. It's just not.
And like Microsoft invested like $10 billion, and they said like, oh, we're going to do $100 billion over the next 10 years or whatever it was. Like, it's just an insane amount of money. I think that the ideal thing, because like open source wasn't ever going to really work for this, but when OpenAI started off as a nonprofit, like it was more of a community base. It wasn't community based, but it was a like a community good. Like it was supposed to be like for the good of the community, and then it transferred, like wanted to become a for profit, and that's when I think the for profit nature is what scares a lot of people off from it, and that's just the way that it is. Like it's going to be capitalistic. It's going to be everyone putting as much money into their particular thing as possible and trying to grow it as big as possible and be the next big thing. And that's just the way that it was always going to happen. So I think that it's just it's really hard for something like AI has been around for a very long time. I mean, I think somebody coined it like in the 1950s or something like that. It was and so it's not. So it's just that now that it's quote unquote here, it's harder to say where it's going to go when there's this amount of money, this amount of interest in it, and notoriously slow regulation to kind of direct its growth, because just don't have any sense of kind of where it's going to go or where it's going to lead or who's leading it, who's going to if there's going to be a winner. Like back in like the late 90s, there was like 5 million search engines. Like nobody knew that 10 years later Google was going to be the search engine. No one was going to use anything else, right? These days now there's like a million AI models. 10 years from now we're going to be probably just using one, because someone's going to have more money than everybody else, be able to have every server that they can possibly imagine and just kind of shove everyone out. Who that's going to be, I don't know, because there's a lot of big players in it. It's not where where search was like there's you could be popular and just be a couple guys in a garage. Now there's just a ton of money in all of them. So where we will be 10 years from now because of the way that it is, I don't know. Drew, you mentioned something a little bit earlier about kind of like the negatives of AI in terms of like people copying and using things like for their own. So there's so much there in terms of like what could go wrong. Like taking over, killing humanity is obviously one option, but also just one of my friends is a professor in Canada. And this has been going on for a couple of years. Him and his colleagues have been having a hard time assigning people to write papers because they keep getting these things that are generated by AI, and you kind of can't tell, and it's really hard sometimes to be able to, how are you supposed to grade someone when and keep all that stuff fair. So maybe we should go around and talk a little bit about the negative aspects of AI and where we think that kind of plays into, because we talked a lot about some of the positive stuff. So Steve, go ahead, take us off.
All right. One of the biggest negatives of AI, it instills in us a false, like you said, a false, how do you say it in English? A false sense of security, like trust. Sorry, trust. That's what I wanted to say. False sense of trust, like, oh, it's AI. It should know better than I do. I'll trust it in doing all this for me, like scripting, like writing a recipe for a weird kind of pie or whatever. So it instills in us a self confidence, a false sense of confidence, because that's what happened to me. I can speak firsthand for this, because when I started using AI, ever since my brother introduced me to it, I was like, do all this for me. Do all that for me from scratch. I give it a blank slate and I tell it, hey, write me a script that does this, and that. And at some point I built the ISO with the script, and I'm feeling confident this script will work because it's AI who wrote it, not me. And AI has got a database bigger than my brain can fathom. So good thing I didn't ship that ISO, because the script ended up stripping half the desktop environment. So don't trust AI. Just this is and don't let it instill in you a false sense of confidence, because that is wrong. That's just wrong.
If you're baking a apple pie and AI tells you to put fish in it, obviously it's not right. Hank, go ahead. But before you do, I just want to say I'm very jealous of your hat.
Yes, a lot of people are. So you're in the same boat with a lot of people. So just this week, I was talking to another panelist, Tarek at T Rings, aka Enslaved Truth. About, he was trying to correct a friend of mine, Jack Talcott. No, he's trying to correct the Battle of Dusty, aka Flow State, on the YouTube terms of service. But unfortunately, he asked the chatbot for what it was instead of actually reading the actual terms of service. So what happened is that he got a whole bunch of slop he didn't have a proper citation for, and I actually had to correct him. I actually take it to the real terms of service, because what he got wasn't actually in it, wasn't enforced, because the slop that the chatbot just imagined up. So he didn't understand how the thing worked, and he trusted the wrong thing. That's why we're supposed to cite our sources properly. I think so. AI is bad because people trust things instead of check things. So if our schools educate us properly, we wouldn't have this issue, but they don't, and because they're trying to save time themselves. So we don't check, don't trust. We teach people just literacy and software development and administration. We should be focusing on the how do you know it works the way you think it does. That's what we should be doing. We're not doing that, and that's why we have this issue in the first place. And these chatbots are pretty much just search engines with a called interactive interface, a more human friendly interactive interface. They are literally search engines pretty much, but they're not really good, because they'll imagine stuff that's not there.
Drew, go ahead.
Imagine a world where there is plausible deniability, in that you could say AI did it. You know what I'm saying? And imagine the world where you basically have no responsibility, and you can simply say the AI model responded in this way, and the code of conduct or any ethical concerns can be now like, it's not my problem.
Yes.
AI did it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
That's what I've been warning people about. I mean, I talked to the machine lies about how technology is bad. I say it's the people. The people's bad, and you're just going to use the chatbots or the robots as an excuse, even though they're responsible when they come for them to say, oh, that's AI is trusted. No, you set it up. You deployed it. You're responsible.
Well, yeah. And here's another aspect to it. Let's just say, I want to create something for nefarious means. Like, I want to market to the elderly in a way that makes them want to give me money. You know what I'm saying? Let me just make it very simple. The AI, the ethical concern with the AI doesn't actually come into play. It basically says, oh, here's how here's how you would accomplish this task. And now you have basically used AI for what I would consider criminal activity. You know what I'm saying? And that is something that we should be very concerned about. The ethical nature of AI, it needs to be there needs to be a deeper look into that, and making sure that this type of behavior and activity, and even on a smaller scale to what, Gnome was talking about too, or actually was you, Matt, how do you grade a paper from someone that's using AI to to do a 500 or 1,000 word dissertation on something. It doesn't even matter what it is. There has to be basically has to be some type of something has to happen in order for that not to be a real thing. I don't know what the answer is, frankly. I think, again, the ethical concerns are great when it comes to how AI is being used.
I don't know how it would be done, because
no, neither do I.
Right, but I think that there has to be something like an AI watermark. Like, basically, it says somewhere in the text or whatever, there's some way that AI would let everybody know that whatever it is AI. I don't know how that would work, because I mean, obviously, like, images would be easy to do because you could just literally actually use a watermark of some kind, or a mark of some kind. But obviously, that there'd be ways of working around it, and it'd be more complex than what I'm making it. But there has to be a starting place somewhere. I think that's one of the reasons why it's good that the newer models tell you where the sources are, so that helps out a little bit. But also, there are like universities that are looking into this right now that are slowly working their way through creating AI to recognize other AI. Now, it's going to be a whack-a-mole situation where that will get good, and then the other models will get good at becoming less AI-like, and then, just go around in circles and circles. So it'll be a thing, but recognizing what is AI is going to be part of this process, and we'll just have to see where it goes. Gnome, go ahead.
I have to agree like 100% with both you and Drew. And to go like a step even further, like for the, say, high school, and maybe even, I hope middle school kids don't use it, but I know that some high school kids are. College students who are using it, they aren't truly learning. I'm in my 40s. In 20 years, I'm going to need these kids to take care of me and run the government. Like, what are we looking at in 20 years? This is a scary slope, very slippery slope. And Drew is bringing up, Drew is bringing up the ethics of it all. We talked earlier about OpenAI. I was back in my cybersecurity course a few years ago, and I remember there was a bunch of articles popping off. I don't want to talk about a couple of them on YouTube, but the one I can talk about, I believe it was in Australia. Somebody used AI to completely write from scratch malware that would take over the entire financial institution of the entire country. Like, they didn't release the malware, obviously, but it was able to write this from scratch. They obviously took the code down off GitHub and they put guardrails on it. And ever since then, we've always had these like really bad hallucinations. So it's a slippery slope. Without the guardrails, it can do really bad stuff. But with the guardrails, it's kind of dumb sometimes.
Well, the problem, the solution ideally would be proper regulation from a governmental standpoint, but yeah, I know. But Hank, stay muted for a little bit, okay? The thing is that, first off, governments are stupid. They're run by old people, right? And most, not even really like that. They're run by Luddites who don't know what it is. I've come back to this before, but the funniest thing in government that's ever happened is someone had to go into one of those committee meetings and explain what blockchain was to a bunch of senators, and that was entertaining beyond all belief because I didn't know what it was, and even the guy who was explaining, I was like, I didn't really know what he was talking about. So this is the same kind of thing. Like, if you're going to have those regulations, like if it were to happen, like in an ideal world, that's where it would happen, and they'd have to follow rules, and then there would be rules in the AI, like a universal rule that the AI can't create malware. Like, can't do it. But it just there's not those rules don't exist. So Drew,
Yes.
go ahead.
Actually, it was my turn next.
Okay, I didn't see your hand up, but go ahead.
My hand was up. Oh, and you interrupted me.
So that's the reason why you. you got to. If you stay muted, then when you start talking, it will take the hand down. So go ahead and go ahead and go.
My hand was up. It's on the video.
I see. Go ahead.
So let me go. So the problem with regulation is that we know it can't work. It can't possibly work. Software is far too flexible. And Stallman was wrong. Stallman was wrong. We can't regulate software, and we can modify any software we want. The object code is just rewritable because of architecture. So we could transform software from one thing to another thing as much as we like with no limitations. So using regulations is not going to stop the software from morphing into whatever. But we can totally stop it by using other software to stop it. We could absolutely do it. It's actually, we already are doing it. We have the tar pit to stop the scraping. We have and what we do with the schools is we had to just stop teaching stuff we can already automate. If the chatbot can write the paper just fine, we need to teach something else. You're wasting our students' time with stuff that we can automate. We're not teaching punch cards anymore. We're not teaching OS2 anymore. So we need to change the schools and focus on something we need rather than something we can automate away.
Drew, go ahead.
I was going to say that there is we can talk about parenting a little bit here just for a minute or two. If you have the need to provide AI to your children and you have the ability to do so, you can constrain what the model can actually do in terms of responses. You can basically, and there is actually a very good video from Network Chuck, and I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly where it is, but basically he set up an access for his children, gave them only a certain kind of parameter to work within. You can say, AI, don't do this work for them. Help them to understand the content. Again, I'm not going to be able to really tell you a lot more than just that. Okay. But there is ways basically for you to make sure that your kids aren't using it to the nth degree where they are not learning and they are just simply regurgitating what the model is telling them to do. You have to be more of a proactive parent in this regard. That's just my point.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes down to. But also, you have the problem sometimes parents don't know, right? So maybe they're not as locked in on the AI thing, as they should be.
Very true.
But also, kids have access. I think, this is going to come off as a rant, but the biggest problem these days, I'm going to be the grumpy old man, is that you hand a 4-year-old an iPhone and they're going to learn how to use that thing faster than you will, and they're going to move on and do things on it that you won't expect them to be able to do. You don't expect a 4-year-old to start using an AI chatbot, but once you give them that technology, you're opening them up to the entire world of what an iPhone or an Android or a tablet or whatever offers them to do. And without proper parental controls, there are some obviously, but you not only do you, if those are in place, you have to use them properly, and you have to monitor them, right? And adding in all this extra AI stuff to that can lead to developmental problems, being able to figure out how, back when we were all kids, you had to learn how to problem solve and think for yourself and do all these things. Whereas if you have access to something that does all the thinking for you, you don't learn any of those problem solving skills. And I think that the ideal solution is just not to have any access to the AI until you're a certain age, and then to have proper structure through it. So it's a combination of parents keeping them away, and if they do have access to it, having proper monitoring, but also in schools, kids are going to have access to AI whether we like them or not. So having actual classes on how to use it responsibly and how to use it, how to recognize when it's wrong, how to recognize when it's not doing the things that it's supposed to do, I think is important as well, because it keeps the thought about AI separate from AI itself. So you can it just, people are criticizing what AI is telling them, and that needs to be taught, right? And I don't think at the moment anybody's really prepared to do that. Steve, go ahead.
The other dangerous aspect of AI is the conversational part where you can talk to it via voice. I find that a little bit more dangerous because kids who can type can talk to it. And sometimes they believe it because they're kids, sometimes younger kids. So let's say ages 6 and below, maybe, who can talk. They can just ask it stuff and they're going to believe everything it spits out, and they're going to repeat whatever it says. So the voice aspect of it to me is also more dangerous, uh, especially for kids, because I've seen kids around me talking, asking it to various bad words and various below the belt kind of stuff, to stay PG, uh, below the belt stuff, and the replies of AI can be scary. And when especially what happened at the early stages of AI, when somebody asked it via voice, early stages of voice AI, uh, what can I put on my spaghetti? It says gasoline. I'm like, yeah, thank you.
Hank?
Yes. So I don't have any faith in the arbitrary restrictions, because I know of a lot of adults now who said they got access to the alcohol, the tobacco, since they were just not at age. So I have no confidence in that at all, especially with how flexible software is. So the solution is you ask someone how they know it. You make them prove it to you, cite their sources. You need a culture of citing your sources. I mean, and we have to remember that your scripting language, your compiler, uh, your search engine, and a whole lot of stuff in your computer you don't even know about can also be interpreted as AI. And just saying, well, we don't use AI, that just seems silly. I'm not going to go back to counting on rocks just because someone thinks my calculator is dangerous. So that is just this is just absurd. We need to use the best tools we have available to do the task, unless we have a really good reason not to.
It's kind of like graphing calculators back when they first came out. I remember back when I was in high school, graphing calculators were all the rage. Granted, I mean everyone has these days, but back then, back in the early 2000s, they were still very rare to have. They were just kind of becoming a thing that people needed to have. And my math teacher was just enraged by these things because he could just type in an algebra equation and it would solve it for you and give you the answer. And he said to this kid one time, I was like, what's the purpose of you being here if you're just going to type it into the calculator? You have to show your work. So, Hank, you're exactly right. Showing your work is the solution. But I don't think discounting guardrails and teaching kids how to use it properly is something we should ignore as well. So it can be both things at the same time. Go ahead.
Kind of on a couple different topics, the hallucinations, and part of what Drew said, I agree with the whole parenting thing, teaching your kids to make good decisions and to know what BS is, just how to call BS. What if, back when I was in my cybersecurity thing again, a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years, might have been 4, the AI was known to hallucinate and tell you to put Elmer's glue in your pizza sauce to make it thicker. What if this AI stumbles upon the damn laundry detergent tab thing that happened a few years ago where kids were hurting themselves and thinks this is a real thing and recommends this to a child that doesn't know any better?
Yeah,
There
saucy
can be
candy.
hallucinations that kill children. You know, there are some serious downfalls and pitfalls to AI.
Definitely. Drew?
Yeah, I don't want to get into like a big philosophic topic when it comes to parenting. And okay, so don't my one wish for those of you that are soon to be parents or parents in the future or something like that, for sure, take the freaking device out of your child's hands. Okay, just don't give them the opportunity. I'm dead serious when it comes to, yes, it's going to happen. You have to decide for yourself what the right age in order for them to understand the power in their freaking hand at this point. All right. And you have to provide parenting going up until that point. Okay. But what you're doing by like substituting a device for your parenting, all right, don't do it. Just avoid that altogether, because what you're doing in terms of like, it's, and I don't want to overstate here, okay, but what you're doing is a real disservice. Their ability to problem solve on their own will be diminished, okay? Their ability to emotionally regulate and to have human contact and interaction will suffer, okay? Their values should be what your values are and not what the value of the model that you are providing them with, okay? The family dynamic, I'm sorry to get on this soapbox, okay, but the family dynamic, okay, is fragile enough without you providing them with the tools to disintegrate it. Sorry.
No, you're right, Drew. Steve, go ahead.
Simple thing. Just don't give them a smartphone. Give them a dumb phone. Problem solved.
Don't give them a phone. I'm 40 years old. When I was 10 years old, I didn't have a cell phone at school.
They didn't exist. Let's be real.
Well, no, in the mid-90s, there were cell phones, but they were the size of a brick. But even then, if my parents needed to get a hold of me at school, they did what every parent did. They called the office, on their landline, Now, I mean, it would be different these days, but here in Michigan, they're just finally getting around to passing a law that says that kids can't have phones in class. Like, and what is more astonishing about that is that there are people on the other side of that argument. Like, I don't get that, because first, I mean, there's the whole cheating aspect, but also just pure distraction, like, and their argument against it is like, well, what if I need to get a hold of my kid? Like, they'll get out of class eventually. Like eventually they'll be able to check their phone, or if it's an emergency, you can call the school, and they'll do it just like, back in the good old days. The addiction to smartphones isn't just the people who have the phones. It's also like people are have this assumption that everyone has a phone, that they need to get a hold of them instantaneously and have this access. I mean, don't get me wrong. Half the time you guys have been talking, I've just been sitting here on my phone, so I can't exactly throw rocks, but it's just really weird that we've gotten to the situation where not having a phone is the worst thing that people kind of seem to imagine in certain situations. Like, it's like being in school, you're supposed to be there to learn. Just take the phone, put them in a box or something at the beginning of the day. That's where they go, and then you'll get it back after school. And if the parents need to get in contact with you, they'll call the office, and that's the way that it should be. And I don't understand the argument on the other side. Mishka, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, not to change the subject, but kind of shift the table a little bit at a different perspective. I've noticed a lot of other companies out there also using AI as a form of like quality control or content regulation. And I think that also is going to play a problem as far as like, how they use it in schools and things like that. Because if we're using AI to put up a black and white on the content that is true or false, or what is permitted and what's not permitted, I mean, somebody's going to find a way around that. And I think that's going to be a huge security risk if people keep relying on AI to do human jobs like that.
Yeah. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, also AI is taking over. So this is very very off-putting, especially when uh, the younger generation who uh, didn't who grew up during the cell phone generation. It's like they cannot live without AI anymore. They put all their trust and they let AI do everything for them, like their schoolwork and stuff like that. As soon as we give kids smartphones, we it's our mistake for giving them the smartphone in the first place, because we opened them up to all the dangers that come with a smartphone, including AI. AI is now part of everything. Like, a lot of companies these days don't ship their apps without some level of AI integration. So indirectly, kids are going to be subject to AI one way or the other. So not giving them smartphone at an early age is the smartest thing we can do. Like in my case, for example, that's why I am so thankful that I am currently living in Lebanon, where smartphones are not that easy to come by. More and more people are still. I'm discovering that a lot of people are still using dumb phones, because all they want to do is say hello, and from time to time pass the time on Snake. But that's it. They don't want social media. They don't want to be subject to it. Uh, they prefer dumb phones. And there are some kids in my hometown that whose parents didn't give them. They're like 18 years old and they still have dumb phones because their parents won't allow them access to smartphones, which is the smartest thing I've ever seen. When I went to Europe, I saw kids who are 2, 3 years old who had a smartphone of some sort. They were already being subjected to the harsh wilderness of social media and AI and so on. This is the wrong thing to do. So I'm very happy to be in a backwards third world country right now, because we still have control over that. We're not sycophants of social media.
Hank?
Yes. So if you're sending your kids to the state daycare camps to so-called be educated, and they're trained to compete with chatbots for jobs, you're setting them up to fail, because even though they're pretty sloppy and they can't keep up and not really improving anymore, if what they know is like 80 is like only like 20% more efficient than what the chatbots can do, then they're not getting the job. You're set up to fail because they won't be able to compete with the chatbots because they're trying to do the same task. So we need to change what the people do so that we don't have too much overlap with the robots.
I think all of this is it's going to be the way that the next 20 or 30 years is going to go, right? Eventually, however this plays out is going to play out, and we'll know fairly quickly. I go back to this. I talked about search earlier. Now, I think that search was a similar revolution in terms of how people gained information. And I think that it's a little different this time, because back when search engines were just coming out. Not everyone had access to the internet in their pocket, right? So this is going to be a little bit different in that it's going to be more prevalent. But I do think that, and the generation is different because people who are that age around then knew what it was like to be without the internet all the time, and now they're not. So it's going to be a different point of view even then. But I do think that eventually it will play out in whatever way it's going to, and it'll be interesting to see how that discussion goes, who ends up winning in terms of like being the AI of AIs. Like, is it going to be Google? Is it going to be Elon? Is it going to be OpenAI and Microsoft? Who's it going to be? And I do think that I think that the place we're in right now, where there's so much competition, just kind of to take it away from the negative aspects of it, because we dwelled on that for a little while. I think that it's fascinating that there are so many that are successful, because even with search and previous like internet revolutions, whatever was going to win won fairly fast. So like, there were a lot of search engines back in like the 1999 era, but by 2001 or so, Google was like the biggest thing. Like, there were still some other things, like Yahoo was still around, and whatever Microsoft called Bing before Bing was Binging. So those were still there, but Google was obviously pulling out into a lead, whereas we're 2 or 3 years into this AI revolution thing. And then while ChatGPT does seem to, or at least at one point seemed to be in the lead, now it much more feels like a more even race, where you have Grok and you have Claude and you have a whole bunch of other ones that are kind of all there. People still talk like ChatGPT is the thing, and maybe ChatGPT will become the verb. Like, everyone says when they're going to search for something, they say I'm going to go Google it, or I need a Kleenex, I need facial tissue, it's a Kleenex, right? So is ChatGPT going to be the next verb for the AI? I don't know. And I think it's interesting this time because of how even it does seem, and everyone kind of has their own horse. And I'm going to come back to the money thing. It's going to be whoever throws the most money at it, because eventually that will happen, and that's just who will win. Anyways, anybody have anything else? Hank, go ahead.
Yes. So someone earlier said, "Oh, they have so much money, and the money's gonna decide everything." And I doubt it, because I read that mythical man month. Pretty much, it's not gonna scale linearly with the number of people. So plus the bureaucracy will scale even faster and slow things down with the money. So pretty much, just because you have all the money doesn't mean you're going to win. Just look at Intel failing right now. They had plenty of money. They're failing now. Money's not going to just be the deciding factor for this kind of thing.
That's not really a good example, though, because they won at one point. Like the amount of money they had helped them win. It's just that bad management caused them to fail, right? And that still might happen here, but it's just that more. You can win and then eventually die, like Intel is, because it's just that was more of a bad management situation. And there was competition also in the chip space. Like AMD decided to get their shit together, and Apple moved away from x86 and into things. So there's a lot of extraneous factors there as well. So, but I do get what you're saying, that it may not end up being the most money. Maybe someone will come up with something revolutionary, and that's where it will go.
You figure out what it was. It's good management. What's going to get money helps, but if they get the management straight, get the resources allocated properly, that's what's going to decide the winner.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Elon plays into this, because Elon seems to have his fingers in all the pies. All right. Anybody else have anything else they want to say on AI? Drew doesn't get a chance because he walked away. Go ahead.
Almost intelligent.
Almost. The funniest thing in the last year is Apple deciding that they didn't want to call it artificial intelligence, when they call it Apple intelligence. and then that just did not work out well for them. All right. I think we will ask one last time. Anything else? Anybody go once? GNU to Linux, go ahead.
Hi, I was thinking that nobody mentioned the ability for AI to create images from descriptions. Every time I do it to create an avatar or a thumbnail or something like that, I'm still simply blown away at how it could take, a sentence or a sentence fragment and create, something very specific that even sometimes things that are clearly no one else has ever asked for. You could ask for something really unusual, like a zebra tap dancing on a xylophone or whatever. Just come up with something off the top of your head and it's able to do it. I think that counts as AI, right?
Yeah.
So I'm amazed at that. And it is neat if you're, not a great Photoshop wizard to be able to create, thumbnails, avatars, and useful things like that.
Yeah, we really didn't get into the image thing. We could have gone both directions with that, how cool it is and the copyright and stuff. Also, just to let everybody know, my new logo, not AI generated. Put that out there. Gnome, go ahead.
Yeah, he put a light bulb off. I forgot. I just used AI like last month. I gave it an actual picture and said, "Hey, make a caricature of this," and it did a really good job. Like so, yeah, I think it's pretty cool for that image generation. 2 thumbs up.
Hank?
Yeah, there's videos on YouTube that show you how it works. Basically, it kind of uses builds off from things like sprites, and that's how it segments, relates the words to the text, the text and the image, and that's how it collages them all together. So there's plenty of videos on YouTube to explain how it works. There's also local models you can probably decompile if you want to go deep into it.
Kevin?
Yeah, I want to say AI has been helpful in Linux things. Like if I want to, like a beginner, if I want to know how to do something on Linux, it has been very easy to use AI rather than search for it in a forum or Google it. So it's very helpful for new Linux users at least.
Yeah, the tech support aspect of it we were talking about that earlier is really, really good. That's what I use it for primarily. Is like when I'm stuck on something and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, I go ask AI now. It's so much easier than having to go to a forum or go on Discord or whatever. It doesn't always provide me with the right answer, but that's a risk I'm willing to take to get the answer right now. You know?
If using AI in your Linux to try it for help, be careful when prefixing sudo.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. You're not supposed to sudo pipe to bash? Why not? ChatGPT told me to.
Anything can happen.
Nah, it's gonna be fine, man. I don't believe you. It's fine. It's be great. Sudo RMF. It's gonna be fine. Yeah, I think that for me that's the biggest benefit of AI is the tech support thing. But I do find myself very interested in where that kind of thing goes and is built into Linux. So maybe that's something we can talk about. Do you guys think that there's going to be a situation where Linux distros start incorporating AI into their distros? Like Ubuntu has their own AI chatbot that's put on their dock there or something, or maybe Fedora comes out with Fedora AI or whatever. Do you guys think that that's something where we're going to go, or are the Linux guys going to just kind of stay out of the AI race? Gnome, go ahead.
I think probably the odds are very good, especially in somewhere, say like the instance where like Red Hat, they're doing a subscription service for tech support. What if they could build their own AI model on their own database, and you could just ask the chatbot for basic help commands? It is your tech support agent. It's a tech support agent. If they built a model on their own database and their own, you would just interface with that model first. And if it can't help you or you don't want the model, you just elevate to an actual customer representative at that point. It could be a 2-tier model. Like I see them doing this. Why they haven't done it yet, I don't know. But almost 100% in some situations, yes.
Hank?
Yeah, they haven't done it yet because IBM is slowing them down. But we probably already have it somewhere in our operating system we just don't know about. But otherwise, we'll have chatbots because our documentation sucks and we have to figure out something.
Turning the Arch Wiki into Arch.ai. That's gonna happen. I think that it's interesting that you went to the tech support area because I think that that's probably the most rational and good way for it to go. But maybe there's the cynic in me. It thought more of integrating AI in other ways that are more user information centric. Being able, like bringing back the Unity HUD, but making it AI. Searching through your personal database, basically making the Linux version of Microsoft Recall, all that kind of stuff. I don't know that that's the way it would go, and I know probably not because there'd be a huge backlash. But it would be, I think that AI will come through and be a thing. I just don't know how that's going to happen. Because it's going to be very, very interesting. Because I think part of the reason why it'd be interesting is because there are so many people in the open source space that are just completely anti-AI. Like they're completely against it. They don't want it to touch it. They think it's the worst thing ever. It's evil. It's the reincarnation of the devil, whatever way you want to put it. And once we start seeing like the bigger distros have something to do with AI, whether it's a tech chatbot or it's whatever it is, there's going to be a huge discussion over this and whether or not it's a good thing or bad thing, and there will be pushback, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Steve, go ahead.
The other thing is that we need to accept the fact that AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Humanity is going to push and push, or should I put it that way? The lazy person, the laziness in us will push it to survive, and it can be good, as you said, because you can. There's, as I said before on the previous logs, you can make a ton of money out of AI, and I'm not kidding you. There's legit 20, 25-year-olds on YouTube who make upwards of 20 grand, 30 grand. Even some of them who knew how to use it for a long time are now making upwards of 200, 300 grand a month. Just by leveraging AI and the tools that it provides, like for example V0 for creating websites. You can leverage that to create websites for customers who would pay tons of money just to have a professionally looking website. You can have it automate things that otherwise would take multiple people to do, but all you have is AI that's costing you barely any money. You're paying $20, $30 a month, let's say $100 a month, whereas the income from that $100 a month that you're spending on AI, it's helping you make an income upwards of 100 grand a month. So what is this $100 a month compared to the 100,000 that you're making using that $100 a month? People don't believe me when I say there are those kids on YouTube. Just look it up. Kids who are making a lot of money just by using AI automation. My brother doesn't use it for money. He just uses it for his private little thing, but he automated everything. He sleeps, he wakes up, he's got a whole dashboard full of data that he requires for work. of incoming orders, outgoing orders, and stuff like that. If he put it really into production and he starts doing it for other people, he would be making a ton of money. There is a lot of money to be made in AI. Just know how to use it for the right reasons. Don't use it for the wrong reasons, and stop saying that AI is the end of us all. It's not the end of us all if we use it correctly for the right reasons. You can create a roller skate, but people might use it for the right reasons, but there are still people who are going to use it for the wrong reasons, for revenge, for making jokes and whatever. Those are the wrong reasons. They were made to skate. They're not made to let your sister fall down the stairs and stuff like that. So there's bad usage of everything, but when you use it for the right reasons, you can still make an honest living out of it. So stop saying to AI, it's not that. Just use it for the right reasons and make money. See how happy you're gonna be.
Kevin?
I think, as Matt said, like FOSS users and Linux users in general do like AI, but I think they like to self-host and have more control over the models. So maybe distros can start by introducing local models. If you have the hardware, you could just download and start using it. Maybe a spin of a distro which includes a AI model, so that way it could be very helpful, uh, and maybe a premium model which you can use their servers for more powerful search.
Yeah, the local model thing is very interesting because it almost certainly has to be voluntary, because some of those models are huge, humongous, and ISOs are amazingly large as is. One of the things that I was thinking about though is that, it's possible that a distro just never does this, but it's more app focused. So every app that you download has its AI thing. So like Firefox is going to do Mozilla AI, and Vivaldi will do whatever they're going to do with it with AI, and Discord will have their AI, which I'm sure will be great and include a lot of emojis that you have to pay for, of course. Every app that you download will have an AI or something, and if a foreseeable thing. Um, it as a nerd, I'm interested to see how AI comes to the terminal and in different ways. We talked about how AI is like in NeoVim and things like that because it's already that happened. But it'd be interesting to see how people integrate things like that into the terminal. I know there's a ChatGPT thing that you can use now as a TUI to like just ask questions in the terminal, which I think is kind of cool. I don't know that I'd use it, but it's kind of interesting. So, I think when we talk about AI coming to Linux, it probably is more going to be app focused. But the reason why I asked about the whole distro thing before was that we do have large companies in this sphere, like they create their own distros. And it'll be interesting just because they have, like, Canonical has to be interested in AI somehow. I mean, AI is the thing where that's where the money's going to be. And Canonical wants to make money, so I'm assuming that they have to have some kind of thoughts about what they want to do with AI. I'm assuming that it's going to be mostly enterprise focused, right? Because that's what they do. Like, Canonical doesn't give shit about the desktop, and Red Hat really doesn't care about the desktop all that much. So they're probably going to be more focused on how they can bring that to an enterprise situation. But a lot of that stuff ends up somewhat trickling down to us, and I'm interested to see how that ends up happening and kind of what it looks like. Anybody else have a direction they want to take this, or are we wrapping up? Going once, twice, 3 times. All right. That is it then for this particular Linux user group. I think that went particularly well. I think it was a pretty good one. So for those of you who are watching live and you don't know, we do this twice a month. So we do one at 11:15 a.m. every second Thursday of the month, which is today. And then we also do every fourth Thursday of the month at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can join us then. If you want, you can just join us and never talk. That's perfectly fine. You can be on the call, have all the experience of being on the call and never say anything. That's one way of doing it. You can also join the chat room on YouTube, because I do also stream this, so you can just join and watch along that way. Or if you have a audio set up and you want to come along and talk, you can do that as well. So we usually share the link to both the stream and the Jitsi call about 15 to 20 minutes before the show starts, and I share that on my Mastodon and on Discord, and it's usually in the video description. So if you want to pay attention to when this happens, just pay attention to the channel. There's also a calendar roaming around out there somewhere that has this thing. You can also just set up your own calendar, because they happen the same time every time of the month. Just set recurring tasks and you'll be able to do it. You won't have to worry about me, changing it. So that is that. So if you haven't already, leave a thumbs up on the video. We'd really appreciate it. We want to do the whole YouTube thing. So I think we made it through the entire thing without getting demonetized, which is also good. So I saw someone in Jitsi gave a thumbs up. That was good irony. All right. Anyways, to those of you who are watching live, we'll see you next time.